is Gayle. Welcome to my hashtag Be Bodacious channel. Gosh, it's been over a month since I've talked to you all. I hope you guys are all doing well. It's just been, yeah, it's been kind of wild. So, Hurricane Helene came in my area on the 26th of September and just dumped a lot of rain and generally created havoc. Um, it's been, let me see here. Hold on. Okay. Okay. I don't know what this is doing. So, anyhow, I had a few minutes and just wanted to come on. Whoops. Let me move the milk out of the way. I am in the church food pantry. There are dancers going on and different things. So, whoops. So, yeah, we've got one person in. So, hi. Come on in, leave a message. I can answer questions if you want to, based on my experience. And this is okay. What is going on here? Just a second. All right. I tell you what, I'm gonna hop on here. Okay, there we go. So I've got a person in, and don't forget to give me a like, a thumbs up on the video. Like I said, I'm in the church food pantry just because this is where I happen to be. Hubby has some work to do, and hi, I'm Gayle. You all that are here, welcome. Got Pipsy over here. He's not too happy with me right now. The reason he's not too happy is just simply because he can't get his ball out from underneath the cabinet, and I can't either. So that's just terrible. I know. So we're going to hear him whine. Hi, Daniel Brown. Welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you. He's a sweetie. He's my service dog, and it does just a fabulous job. Absolutely fabulous. But you're going to hear him whine because he can't, neither one of us can get it. I'm going to have to wait for my husband to get finished with his meeting and stuff to come in here and move things so we can get to it. Poor baby. I know. It's awful. Whoops. I got a message there. So, it's been a month. It's been an intense month with Hurricane Helene. So, kind of just going through things to bring you all up to speed. On day one, Helene dropped a bunch of rain. But what happened was we already had rain for a few days before Hurricane Helene come in. Oh, good. I'm glad you're good today. Awesome. That is good news. Um, so what happened was we had water and rain coming in for a few days before Hurricane Helene came in. So the ground was really saturated. And then Helene came in and we had a break for just, I don't know, hour or two maybe. And she kind of pushed the old system out and then came in and dumped many inches of rain. So I've heard reports of 12 inches, I've heard 16 inches. Either way you go, it's a lot of rain. But what happened was we were all told to expect low-lying areas that usually flood to be flooded. We weren't expecting all this mass flooding that we got. We just didn't know. So a lot of people didn't prepare enough for that. Uh, we got pretty lucky because my husband had to be at a conference out of town, and that was on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before the hurricane came in on Thursday. So we took our travel trailer because it was cheaper to stay in than a hotel room ever would have been. And on the way back, we just made sure, instead of boondocking, we just made sure that we dumped our tanks and filled that water tank. So it's about 15 gallons. It's not a huge trailer and it's not a huge tank, but we had it. And then once we got home, and my husband was laughing at me a little bit, I went ahead and filled every tote that we had with water. I filled the bathtubs. I filled just all these pitchers and containers. Really, I did everything we could to make sure we had water. And my husband was like, "Oh, we're not going to need it. Nobody's really said to do this." And I'm like, "I just feel better, paranoid me." So that was on uh, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, I guess. I guess it was Thursday morning. And then Helene hit, and she just absolutely did her worst. Like I said, tons of water. But in addition to all the water she brought, I know, I'm sorry, I can't get it. But in addition to all the, he's whining for his ball. In addition to all the waters that she brought, hey, Butter Roll, it's Boutique. Yeah, it's been intense, but I have a lot to be thankful for, and I got to. It's just wow. It's just been God, and I'm not implying that God punished people or anything like that. It's just that I'm very very fortunate and have to just credit Him. So, yeah, um, I've got a piece of leaf behind my glasses. Anyway, so Helene came in and she just dumped tons of water. But in addition to that water and the ground already being saturated, we had the hurricane force wind gusts. So, like in my backyard, for example, we had trees down and it just looked like somebody took their hand and laid the trees over. Now, there was a couple of exceptions, but by and large, that's how it was. So I wound up with a tree falling on my van and a right on the nose of it. And I just knew that the windshield would be in disarray. But it wasn't. Now, our travel trailer has some damage on it because a branch knocked off that little satellite antenna thing. But I'm not worried about it because I don't ever use it anyway. Or maybe it's a cable anyway. Whatever that big thing is on top of the travel trailer, that took damage. So we're not sure about the roof. But our electricity went out on Friday morning. Our water went out on Friday morning. And the thing about that is, when the electricity was out, we weren't expecting all of this to happen. And so we didn't know, like, is it going to be out for a couple of hours? Are we looking at days? If we knew that it was going to be that the power was going to be out, then we would have used everything in our freezer. But we just didn't know. And we had no phone, no internet, no power, no water, no way to communicate. So we really didn't know what was going on. So we talked to our neighbors, but they didn't know any more than we did. Um, so that was a difficult call to make. And I'd love to hear from you all. What would you do in that situation? Would you open up the fridge and open up the freezer, hoping that it was going to be okay? Hang on just a second. No, 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 no. You can't do that. No, no, no. You cannot knock over the basket to get it. Okay, just down, down. Sorry about that, you all. He was really trying to get that. So he managed to knock the whole basket over and then move it, the wastebasket. Anyway, that's safe. So anyway, we didn't know. So we wound up initially just leaving everything closed, and we finally started using some of it once we realized this was not going to be a quick thing. And the way we found that out was to actually physically get in the car and drive through town. So if you saw the videos of some of the flooding in my county that we took, uh, when we saw that level of flooding, then we knew it was not going to be a quick fix. So we tried to, consume what we could out of the fridge and out of the freezer. I threw some things into the fridge in the RV. That kind of backfired um, because somewhere in all of this, we had the RV initially hooked up to the house power, and I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way, when either the electricity ran out or we have a propane generator, just a small one, just to run the RV. Um, when that went, anyway, somehow or other, our RV took a power surge. So we are not sure what the status of the travel trailer is going to be, um, which is compared to what other people are losing, have lost, and will continue to lose. That's not a big thing in the grand scheme of things. For me, it's a problem because my doctors are 3 hours away. And so, what we do is, if I have a super early doctor appointment, like if I have to be there at 7:30 in the morning to have labs, because it's so far away, we'll take the travel trailer or sometimes the van. If it's just me, I'll go in the van. If it's the two of us, we'll take the travel trailer and spend the night just boondocking in it. And boondocking just means you don't have electricity or anything, which is fine when it's overnight. And there are house batteries, or there were anyway, house batteries on the trailer, so it would do a night or two. So that's going to be a challenge. Um, but when we drove around and wow, we saw all the water, it was just like, your heart just sank. And you knew immediately this was a whole lot worse than what we'd been told to expect. Um, you also knew immediately that it was going to take a while to recover. And so when I say a while, let me just give you an idea. Um, my husband's a pastor, and he has church members that, like, in one section of the county that was really hard hit. And this has been like, she came in on the 26th, and they just got electricity back night before last. That kind of sort of beginning recovery. But town, here in town, um, the recovery is much more advanced in some respects. We wound up being without electricity for 10 days. We were without phone service for 3 days. We were without water for 2 weeks. And then when it came on, there was a boil. Thank you, Better Roll Boutique. And then, of course, when it came on, we had a boil water advisory. Well, complicating all of this, I had been to the doctor right before Helene came in when we were in Knoxville, which is where my doctors are. I was having an asthma attack problem. So I was on steroids, antibiotics, breathing treatments, a new daily inhaler. Plus, I had my little rescue inhaler. So it was really important for us to have electricity. And so, like, one of the challenges for us is that, do you stay in your trailer or do you go to the Red Cross shelter? Knowing that we had electricity in the trailer, it started acting wonky. But even with it being wonky, do you stay in it and deal with that, or do you go to the shelter knowing you needed electricity? Um, and then we found out that the shelter sometimes didn't have electricity. So, at that point, it becomes like a moot point. The decision is really, really easy because it's already basically made for you. If the shelter keeps running out of electricity, then you're going to go to the travel trailer. Um, but after a few days, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening, we start to realize that we are running out of drinkable water, because we have to flush the toilets and basic hygiene stuff. Um, so we're like, okay, we need to get water, and they were distributing water and supplies from the armory in downtown. So at this point, well, at one point, there's three major roads in and out of our little town. And so at one point, all of them were impassable. There was no going in or out. You were here and that was just the way it was. Or you got stuck out at work and that's the way it was. Um, so we realized we were running low on water and decided that we needed to get some. Well, everything's closed. And what few places are not closed are cash only. So, fortunately, we had taken some cash out of the ATM on the way up here from the conference. Otherwise, we would have been stuck because all of the ATMs were down. Part of the businesses were closed. Definitely, we're talking about the first couple of days, like everything was closed. But by about day three, some businesses tried to figure out how to open. You couldn't buy gasoline because the pumps needed electricity, and they have, not just electricity, but your credit card processing and stuff like that. So you couldn't use credit cards because all the machines were down, and you couldn't use ATMs because all of the machines were down. So that was really a difficult situation there. So our we had to go to the armory to get water. Well, when we got there, we were able to get a case of water, which I am grateful for. But they had to bring supplies in by Black Hawk helicopter. And so, you go to the armory, you're still not 100% sure like how bad it is. And you get there and you're given water that you're told just came in off the helicopter. So yeah, that was a moment. That was a moment. But it still, kind of took a while to kind of sink in. Going back to the fridge thing, I mean, you're still kind of like, do we leave the freezer closed at this point and hope the stuff is okay, or do we just go ahead and use it? And so we were trying to do a little bit of both, but when the travel trailer was zapped with a power surge, our fridge went out. So I reached in the fridge one morning to do cereal, and my fridge was reading 50 degrees inside. So obviously we lost the fridge. So the first thing you do is open up the freezer, and everything is thawed. Um, the the really one of the oh, I was just so sick to my stomach. One of the things that um, hit me, as far as the freezer, we were going to be going out of town on the first to go see my grandbaby, because I love seeing her. And we had planned this whole vacation. Well, when Helene came in, we thought, well, maybe we should just hold off on the vacation because we just didn't want to drive through like crappy weather. Um, so, yeah, on the way back up from that conference, I told my husband, I said, let's just go ahead and buy the sandwich meat and the food that we're going to need on the vacation for going out there, staying in New Mexico, and coming back. They had a pretty good sale at the grocery store on things that we usually buy. So I'm like, let's just go ahead and get our sandwich meat, our cheese, some of our produce, and we lost almost all of it. So, yeah. But, um, compared to others, like, we can't complain. And I'm just kind of going through this so you guys can kind of understand somebody's thought process who's in the middle of a disaster. And so the following week, Tuesday, I guess it was, the pastor of another church came to my husband and said, "We're doing lunch and we're doing dinner. Could you all take care of breakfast at the Red Cross disaster shelter?" So my husband's like, "Sure." And so thankfully, by this time, we were able to start getting some supplies. So we drove to Sam's in Bristol, which is like an hour away, and boom, the electricity went out while we were shopping. And it was really kind of funny because we had planned to pay at the cash register. And the lady came up to us and they're like, "We're sorry, the electricity's down. The only way that we can take care of you is if you're going to pay on the app." And so my husband's scrambling, grabbing his phone. He's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we're going to we're going to use the app the whole time." No, we weren't, but that's okay. We got it. So you kind of have to look at those, moments. Um, so on Sunday, I'm kind of skipping around a bit, and I don't really mean to. Um, but it's just the way my brain is working. So on Sunday, so she came in, did a wrap on Thursday, out of electricity and water. On Friday, Saturday is just awful. Sunday, we're running short on water, but I had agreed to speak in this church um, that normally is about an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes away to cover for their pastor, who was going to be at the time taking his vacation also. And I was going to go talk about service dog Pipsy and some of the things he does and everything. So their area was like super hard hit. I'm gonna put it on like Asheville level of hard hit. It was bad. Nolichucky River overflowed its banks in a huge, big way. We had our our creeks overflowed, and like we have a church that's just not there anymore. All that's literally left of this church is part of the roof. Okay, that's all there is. So, um, everything is there's at I guess by Saturday some of the roads started opening. So, oh, here's hubby. Hi, hubby.
Hello.
So I guess on Saturday some of the roads started opening, and here it is Sunday morning, and I'm trying to text with the pastor. It's not going well because of the phone service. So Google Fi and T-Mobile were down for, I'm going to say, a week. So we actually finally were able to get out, and I was able to get just one of those little prepaid burner phones. So we were talking on that, and he's like, "I still want you to come and preach for me." And I'm like, "How can I preach for you?" Because I'm walking in a disaster. I'm trying to talk to people who don't know me. Obviously, talking about service dog is not going to work now. And he was like, "You don't understand. I'm not sure if he's heard two churches, and he's like, "You don't understand. I'm not sure if my other church is going to if it's still standing. I need to go figure that out. So you come on in as planned." So I did. And it's like, how do you begin? How do you know what to say? And I was late, actually pretty late, because it took me well over 2 hours to get there. So that was insane. But I made it, and I made it back, Now, making it back, there is more streets closed than what it was when I had left. So it took me more like almost 4 hours to get back. Um, but I made it. And then that evening is when we went and we were able to get water off the Black Hawk helicopter. I think it was that night. Pretty sure it was that night. Um, it's kind of running together. But we could not get supplies. And I had to stop and I had to get permission while I was driving to go on some of the roads for church because they were stopping traffic. And it's like, why? What's your business here? What are you doing? Why are you here? And so you're explaining that to the nice officers. And so I got back and we could not get supplies. I literally checked every Sam's Club, Walmart, and all the major grocery stores between the extreme northeast tip of Tennessee, like between Damascus, Virginia, and Boone, North Carolina. There's this little honey tip up here in the triangle, and that's where we are. And I called trying to find water from there all the way through West Knoxville, which is, like I said, about 3 hours away. Could not find any. And I was calling friends, and I'm like, go physically put your eyes on the water section of Sam's, of Walmart, and tell me how many cases they've got. And I don't want one case, I need like a pallet because it's going to bring it back up here. And could not find it. Absolutely could not. So, Stellar Piper, shout out to Stellar Piper. She went to her local Sam's and her local Walmarts, and she called me back, and she is like, found it. Sam's Club said they will sell you whatever you want to buy. So I am like, great. I am on my way first thing in the morning. Let me do breakfast at the Red Cross shelter with the other volunteers, and then we're heading out. So that was a 27-hour day. Can you believe that? I couldn't believe that because here I am in Northeast Tennessee and she's in Lexington, Kentucky. So I did the Red Cross shelter and it took me almost twice as long to get to Knoxville as it usually does because the roads were closed. And so what happened was, even now we still have trees falling. And so you might go on a road, like say in the morning, and you might find out that that afternoon it's closed again because trees fell or power lines fell, um, and all sorts of debris in the road, that kind of thing. Or you might plan your route the night before, then get in the car, going where you're going to go, and find out that the route is closed and you're having to take a detour. So, just as I cross into Kentucky that evening, my husband calls and he's like, guess what? And so, what had happened was a church near West Virginia had been able to go to Sam's Club and they were able to get the water to the church. And so they brought this entire trailer, you know, the kind that you pull behind your truck. They brought that and it was completely filled with water. And it was just like manna from heaven. But I am crossing the line going into Lexington, Kentucky. So I'm not going to turn around. People, I mean, shout out, huge people. I mean, huge shout out to people who sent money to me and my daughter by PayPal. Because what we did was we went to the Dollar Tree and we went to Walmart and I bought all of the laundry detergent, soap, toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant, all of those kind of things that I had any money for, and we just threw it all in the back of my van. And it was just one of those things that I was like so grateful for. So I brought it back, we set it up, and we immediately started giving it away. And a bunch of churches were doing that, but we had actually had a little bit more supplies because of the trip to Lexington. And I bought wipes. I bought everything that I could possibly buy. I mean, we're talking about like $500 worth of stuff here. And drove it back, set it up, and like people were coming and they were crying over things like a Dollar Tree bottle of laundry detergent, um, cases of water, stuff like that. And so you're handing it out and they're crying about it. I mean, because everybody's like happy that they're receiving it. And it was just, I have never seen anything like that in my life. And hold on. No, I'm sorry. I can't. Did he not get it for you? Aw. I'll have to talk to my husband about not getting that ball. So, anyway, that's kind of how it's been, and I've made tons of supply runs, you know, and people sent stuff in, and like a lady named Valerie and somebody named Justin sent for sleeping bags. That was huge, like huge. I can't, because what happened was we're in the mountains, okay? Hurricane Helene came in, and then like 2 weeks later, we still don't have electricity in most of the county. And like night before last, my husband had church members that finally got electricity a month into this. And so we had the following week, um, we had moderately cold weather, but Tuesday, a week after the hurricane, it snowed. So we have people without electricity, without water, and snow on the ground. Not a huge amount of snow, but we're talking about like a heavy dusting. But when you don't have electricity, that's a problem. And so with the sleeping bags, they were able to have some warmth. And so, like, part of the thing about your warmth is, hey, hi, welcome. We've got Living Positively After Challenges. Lori, it's good to see you. Um, so, like, part of the thing about electricity is like when our travel trailer got zapped with a power surge, lots of other people did too. So they might have electricity, but all of their appliances won't work. Um, the other thing is a lot of them had their heat pumps got flooded. So even if you had electricity, it does not mean you had heat. So we still have people in that situation right now. So the sleeping bags were huge. And Valerie donated money so that I could go out and get heaters, which Amazon, fortunately, after several days, started delivering again, which was like the hallelujah chorus coming from the sky. Because then you knew that you could get supplies because, still, even, a week into this, the supply chains were all disrupted. So you could go on Amazon and order things. Hike with Mike. Hey, oh gosh, Mike, what can I ask what area you're in? Like, not just a general, like, you don't have to give me a town or anything. Just like a general area, like, are you Asheville, Georgia, East Tennessee, that kind of thing. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, you're you're down. Okay. Wow. And then you got hit by the second hurricane. So, wow. It's like, it's crazy, and that doesn't even really begin to describe it. So, wow. So, yeah, so that was a big thing with the sleeping bags. And then people have just been amazing. We could not find heaters, we could not find burners for people to cook on with the little green gas cans. We could not find the gas cans. When my husband went to get propane, for the generator that we were using for the RV. Um, we thought, well, we'll just get 2 propane tanks filled, and nope, we could get one filled. So, I mean, it was things like that. And then in a couple of days, when you're out of propane, you got to figure out what are you going to do. And we had people who, didn't have generators, still don't. So, like, generators are a need. Mr. Buddy or Mr. Heater, Buddy heaters is a big thing. Burners to cook on. And so, for a while, we could not, several days there, absolutely could not get that in. And then when Amazon started delivering, it was like I said, it was just like the skies parted and the hallelujah chorus, and suddenly we could get those things in because none of the stores up here had them. You know, you would have to be to get gas canisters. Like even now, you have to be standing there when they're bringing the pallet in. Otherwise, you can forget it. You're not you can't get it because it doesn't exist right then. So that has been huge. So we still can't get gas in like through Amazon, but we could get the camping stoves and things like that in. And so the other day, I don't know how, I don't know who did it, um, but somebody sent in over $500 worth of burners and camp stoves that, oh my gosh, it was just, I got so excited. And we gave them out Saturday and we told everybody, okay, we put first come, first serve. I put it on Facebook. It's the only way that I've been getting word out, just because it's easier and it works. And Saturday, we had people lined down the sidewalk an hour before the distribution because they needed that. And so um, we ran out um, in less than an hour. We wound up on that particular day, we were just open for 2 hours and we served 119 people, but over 50 families. So, like, somebody would come in and they're like, I've got my husband, brother, sister, child, in the household with me. Um, so, yeah, we were out within about an hour. We did hold 2 of the camp stoves back, and I actually still have them. And that is because some people are disabled, they are in wheelchairs or walkers, and they don't have the same kind of opportunity to stand in line and come and get these things. So I kept 2 back. Um, one woman is coming to get one tomorrow. She has not one, but 2 disabled children. One has cerebral palsy, and the other one has autism, nonverbal, and sometimes combative. So for somebody like that to come and stand for an hour in line is just really, really hard. And her husband's on oxygen. So it's like, so we held 2 back for people like that. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of where we are now. Um, we did a giveaway on our distribution on the first first Saturday a week after Helene came in, um, and that was 170 people, and it was just like wow. Our little the church that was serving meals. Oh my gosh, that church at one point um, was serving 1,000 people at each meal. So they were serving 2,000 people per day, 1,000 for lunch, 1,000 for dinner, and that number went up from there. Um, so, yeah. But now things are starting to level off in town. Outside of town, in another community, it's still, pretty much in the, I don't want to say in the emergent phase because we're out of it for a while, but the major road, a major U.S. highway, 421, has washed away in multiple places. The alternate routes to get there are long and difficult. Low hanging wires on the ground. I mean, it's really tough. And so at one point, they were going door to door on ATVs trying to reach people. And some people brought their horses out, I understand. Now, I didn't see it because I'm not on that section of the county. Down in another little burg down the street from us, they brought in people on horseback trying to find um, somebody who went missing. We've had one death in the county that we know of. Kids are not in school. Kids will. I'm sorry about that ball. Um, yeah, he's still waiting for the ball. Kids are not in school. They won't be in school until the 6th of November, hopefully. And that is if they can get, some more of the roads done. And so they're all doing like alternate routes and changing bus schedules and bus pickups. And, there's going to be some kids who aren't going to be able to get there. We have people who have like culverts washed out and they couldn't get in their driveway or they couldn't get out of their driveway, depending on where they were. We had a family who had been out of town, came back, and they have no driveway left. The little bridge that they drove over, what used to be a little creek, that bridge was gone. So you have people like that. We have people who have cows in the field and no way to get there to take care of the cows. Now they're starting to like move logs and build some temporary bridges and so forth to try to get those situations resolved. But they're still going to have work to do before they can get like on a real schedule. And people have lost their homes. Um, some of them had trees fall, some of them had their homes just washed away. Like I told you, there's one church and it is gone except for part of the roof. Like literally gone. There's nothing left except one portion of the roof. So you have these situations, and out of out of all of this, you see the community really coming together. FEMA was really slow to get on the ground. Nobody knew for sure that FEMA was here for like days. Like I said, the Red Cross shelter was open 14 days. Closed up on a Saturday when snow was predicted on Tuesday. I have people mad at me for complaining on that, but they actually closed with no warning. Like, I was literally in there on Saturday afternoon, or Saturday morning rather, saying, hey, I need the breakfast count for tomorrow. And they're like, well, we might be closing. Red Cross requires we do a 24-hour notice, and we're waiting for that phone call from Red Cross officials now. And I'm like, well, we have food through Thursday. Will you let me know? And they're like, oh, yes, yes. We have to post that 24-hour notice. So Saturday evening, I haven't heard from him. And I went to go and get that count, and they were closed, locked up, gone. Uh, and I'm like, while I'm standing there, somebody's come up saying, I needed shelter, and I don't have any. So, and then it snowed Tuesday. So they didn't do that great. But oh my gosh, Samaritan's Purse, they're going to get my donations like forever because they were here pretty much immediately and started mucking out people's homes and trying to help and just have been phenomenal. Salvation Army came in. They brought meals. They brought kits. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see, but we have some kits that have come in. And that's because somebody said, hey, we don't need these, but somebody might. And they're okay now. We have MREs that the military brought in by helicopter. So, yeah, that's just kind of where we are. I was able to make a supply run to Valerie, that's in All About the Adventure, Valerie Reese, and she gave us a lot of warm things and socks. Oh my gosh. She got socks from Bombas, and she was going to let me have 100 pairs. That wound up being 200 pairs. So I talked to the folks at the Red Cross, and I'm like, today I am, and this was when, obviously, when it was open, and I'm like, today I am going to Eastern Virginia and pick up these socks. Do you want some for here in the shelter? And they were like, yes, that would be great. So I go and get them, and it took me almost 12 hours to do a 5-hour trip because I kept having problems on the roads. And got back the next morning early, relatively in the morning, I guess around 8, and I had to be um, we're supposed to be doing breakfast at 9. And so I got in, and as I am handing this bag to the Red Cross worker, this kid comes up, probably about 10, maximum 12, and he's like, I just want to see if anybody has clean socks because I'm going to go work on my family's house and my feet don't feel good. And it's like, boom, you know? So we went ahead and opened it up and, of course, gave him some socks. Um, so our schools dived in. Everybody has just been phenomenal. Our schools just dived in, and they opened up the showers at the school. Now, obviously, once I got water, they opened up the showers at the school, and I didn't know that schools had laundry facilities. I had no clue. But they opened those up as well. So people could go and do a load of laundry and take a shower. Um, let's see, the fire department chaplains brought up a shower trailer. The Baptist Association brought up shower trailers. Um, we had, at my husband's church, we had a team that came in, and they were here within maybe a week of the disaster hitting, and they came in, and they were a chainsaw crew, so they cut trees so people could get in and out of their driveway. And they were really nice to myself and my husband. They went even and took care of the tree that had gone down in the backyard that landed on my van. We pulled the van out of it, but the tree was still there. And I'm like, I don't care if the tree is there until June. Let's get other people taken care of. And they came back, and there's like, well, there's like 8 of us, and it's not going to take us long to take care of this. And I'm like, awesome. Um, so that was our first mission team. Our second mission team. This will tell you how our area is. In our area, I want to be very clear, is not as bad as Asheville or the area along the Nolichucky River. Okay. It's bad, but not as bad. But we were able to get a mission team in and they stayed here at the church. Most of the team members, I want you to hear this, came from the Bahamas. Yes, the tropical islands of the Bahamas, and they come to where we are with it snowing. It also snowed while they were here, and did a lot of all different kinds of work from mucking out homes to helping down at the distribution center um, and lots of other things that I can't remember right now. It's just been, when you hear, we think of us going to the Bahamas to help, but we don't think about a team from the Bahamas hearing about us and coming here to help. Does that make sense, you all? So that was pretty humbling. And then Lutheran World Services, I love you. Okay, I am not Lutheran, but I love you. They sent in about 300 handmade quilts, and we've given most of them out. So that has just been amazing. Um, Kay from Happy Trails Hiking, she sells Pampered Chef. She actually got me into it. And she's like, I'm going to do soup kits and I'm going to send you these packages of soups. And they all need some TLC and things, kind of tucked in with them because they're just the packages. So then she sent in some of the chicken and things to go with it. And so now I've got over 100 of those that we're still putting together because you're just getting volunteers as you can because everybody is doing things with everybody else. And we're going to have a distribution one day of soup. And the thing about these soups is people who are cooking over a campfire can cook them pretty easily. So that's good. And we're going to give them the water and stuff to go with it. So they'll be all set for that. And yeah. So, and they brought school supplies. Oh my gosh. They brought 2 huge boxes of school supplies. And I think that there is 75, 76 per box. Don't quote me on that, but we're on the second box. Um, we've given out the United Methodist Church makes what they call cleaning buckets, which has it's the bucket itself plus laundry detergent, clothesline, clothespins, spray, 2 kinds of gloves, things like that. We have given out about 400 and something of those. And see, this is just our church. There's tons of churches like doing things. Um, we have given out what they call hygiene kits, and it is a washcloth, a hand towel, toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, comb, nail clippers, just things like that. And we've given out, I think, about 550 of those. And so when I say these numbers, you have to realize there's only 18,000 people in this county. And we're not the only church giving things out by any means. Um, yeah. So a lot of people on social media have come in, like where I've posted, hey, and it's kind of interesting. When I first posted on social media for the first distribution that we were going to do, and we pretty much distributed on Saturdays, um, somebody literally came to me and they're like, well, you haven't told anybody we're doing the distribution. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I put it on Facebook and I put it on like my profile page. And he's like, but you didn't tell anybody, so nobody's going to come. And so, around 100 and so people later, he was like, maybe there is something to this Facebook, but it could just be a fluke. So I'm like, okay. So, it's obviously we know social media is not a fluke, right? So, yeah, um, that's pretty much where we are. And as I sit here, I'm playing with the milk. Shelf stable milk. Dollar Tree has shelf stable milk for like $1.25. And so I keep cleaning out the Dollar Tree and putting it with their inexpensive cereal. And I can't get enough of it. Because kids, obviously, this is a big thing for a family, but a family is going to go through one of these. So, yeah. Something about Helene that people don't think about, because some people have messaged me going, well, why couldn't everybody just leave? This was on the news, blah, blah, blah. Well, two things. One, you got to remember it was downplayed. Okay. Two, this came in at the last part of the month. So if you get paid on the first, you don't have any funds to leave town. Um, I mean, we had this happen. People didn't have funds, but then combining that with all the ATMs being down, not being able to use your debit card or credit card, gas pumps not able to work, um, not being able to buy food because the ATMs and things are down. These are things that people don't understand when you have a disaster. Oh, hi, Pep. Now you're over here bumping my arm. It's okay. Um, so all of that goes into why people couldn't leave, either right before the storm or right after the storm for that weekend. Um, the other thing is food stamps come in, I am told by like bunches of people, they come in the first week of the month for most people, at least here. So you have people who are getting hit on the wrong side of payday, and then before the storm comes in, and then after the storm, they can't go anywhere, even if they do have funds, because they can't access the funds. And for the poor people, you have no food stamps because you have gone through that. So when a storm hits at the end of the month, um, I want you all to think about people who are in difficult straits already, because when you have the storm come, it maximizes that. So yeah, um, so that's kind of where we are. What's going on? As far as our travel trailer, things are. It's just taking a long time because there's such a backlog on things to get them looked at. So like our insurance adjuster, he's been really nice, but he would drop it. What have you got? Did you get something out of the oh, you're still trying to get that ball. Don't worry, we'll get it. Sorry. Um, this little guy over here is like, I really want my ball. We're going to get it. Don't worry. You don't have to get things out of the trash to get attention. It's all right. So, anyway, so there's backlog on getting everything done. So we've got an appointment for our travel trailer. Now, remember, this happened the end of September, and we have an appointment with our travel trailer to take it on the 4th of November. They're not going to get to it, they said, until probably, hopefully, the 12th of November, they can get to it. So people who are like living in campers and living in travel trailers already, to have that kind of backlog is difficult for them. Um, there is an organization that I'm kind of excited about in a way, and then sad that it's needed. And it's called Cabins for Christ. And they're actually building like tiny home, one room cabins to try to give people a roof that they can get under because it's going to be cold. Appalachian Service Project, they're building houses, and they're planning on building 200 houses, but the houses are $50,000. So that's a lot of fundraising that organizations have to do to come up with it. Not saying it's a bad program, don't hear me say that at all, but how realistic is that for a lot of people? So that's what we're going to be finding out. Um, yeah, so that's kind of where we are. Our armory that's been doing the main distributions in the city itself. We're like about 3 weeks ahead of where like the community called Trade is. Trade is actually the oldest non-incorporated community in the state. It was named for a Native American trading post. That's what they did. They traded. So that's how that community got its name. Um, but that's also the one that US 421 cut off. And the alternate routes are, they're always having trouble with the alternate routes out there just because everything is so bad. And like literally, they said for like telephone poles, for example, utility lines that are on the telephone poles, um, the ground isn't there anymore that the poles used to be embedded in because it's washed away. Of course, we've had landslides and trees went down, and we're talking, when we say trees, we're talking about oak, walnut, maple, uh, poplar, the trees that don't usually go down did. So, yeah, let me see. Somebody commented, hey, Iron Fire Horse. Hey, welcome. It's good to see you, Irene. And she says, hi, Gayle, you're so right on all of this. I love what you do, always thoughtful. The tiny house idea sounds great. I think so too. I'm sad that it's needed, but what, I mean, it's something, you know? Um, People are buying campers, and it doesn't matter what age the camper is. They are trying to get supplies and fixing them up, even if that means taking the sawzall and cutting the walls down to the base and starting all over from that point. I mean, that's just what people are having to do to get under a roof. And right now, anything that you can do to get under a roof is a major step forward for a lot of these people. When we were giving out supplies the other day, I had two people that came to me that were literally, they said, were in tents, and they were asking for sleeping bags. And I'm like, we also have these blankets in. So take the sleeping bags, but take a couple of blankets too, because you're going to need them. And then one of them came back later and they're like, she was like, I'm so glad you said that. So, but you've got to do what you've got to do. We've heard nothing about FEMA trailers. I don't know if nobody knows if they're coming in or not. Um, yeah, it's just been as far as it took a few days for FEMA to get on the ground here. And then once they got on the ground, it was like they were hidden. And now they've been set up now at the library for about a week, um, which has been helpful. Most people are getting turned down for the FEMA funds that are supposed to be like the emergency funds for families. Um, yeah, this thing hit on the 26th. We applied pretty much the following week when we had electricity and internet. And yeah, just we just yesterday got a payment. Um, so much for like the emergency thing. But it's still helpful. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It is still helpful. Nobody's going to cover all the food that we lost, and that's okay. But it's still helpful. Like I said, especially because we're one of the ones, and it just hit on the wrong side of payday. That's why we were going to go out on the first to see my grandbaby, because that was payday. So now we're going to try to go see her. Hopefully, the first week in November. We'll see. We have been running, my husband and I, like everybody else up here. It has been 15, 18-hour days. Easy. Um, like I said, I've done at least one 27-hour day. And then I think when I went to Valerie's, it was like 25 hours. And I went down to Memphis. I had to go to Knoxville for supplies, and then I had committed to take some stuff to Memphis. That was another 26-hour day. So those are just how it's going. Um, the roads are tearing up tires. We've gone through, let's see, my husband has a leaky tire right now. We had a flat with a trailer tire. I've got the back end of the van, one of the back tires on that now has a bulge on its side. We have church members who have been like, that battery operated portable tire inflator that you have? Could you like maybe bring it over to X location? Because that's where I am. So we've had that on more than one occasion. Um, we had somebody come up once they finally could get up here. We had a little writer come up here. She does some reporting, and she came up and she had flats, plural, on the way home. So that just adds to, your expenses. And so, yeah, one thing at a time, but we know that if we get to go see the grandbaby, I'm probably having to put tires on the van if I keep getting flats. And I figure I'm going to keep getting flats just because that's how the roads are. I'm not going to stop taking supplies to a distribution center if I've got them in this church just because I'm worried about a flat tire. It's not happening. So, yeah, it's just the way it is. And did you finally give up? He's over here curled up asleep now. Yeah. But he's done good. You know, he's been absolutely great through this whole thing. Like the day that Helene came in, he was like continually alerting when it was really bad, and like trees, like you could hear them falling outside, and he was like continually alerting, like, Mom, something's wrong. I'm going to take care of you. I need to fix it. Um, and once the winds died down, so did he, and he settled down. Um, I was a little concerned because I really thought at one point we were headed to the shelter. And when I went in for one of the breakfast things one day, um, I was told that only certified service dogs were allowed in. And I'm like, there is no such thing. And they flat yelled at somebody that had an ESA, and they're like, you can't do that. You can't bring your dog in here. And it's like, um, so that's when we had a conversation about my service dog. And I was like, what if I come and I have him with me, which obviously I'm going to do because he helps me walk and he monitors for blood sugars and so forth. And I'm like, what if he comes in with me? And I don't want to have a problem. And they're like, there's kennels outside. And I'm like, I'm not putting my service dog in a kennel outside overnight. Not happening. So another good reason to, be in the travel trailer. Uh, I actually made a complaint to the U.S. Department of Justice about that. I have no idea if they're going to take it or not. They don't take everything. When they do, sometimes they just write a letter and say, you can't do this. So I don't know. That's probably going to be a while before I find out. But yeah, that's the level of frustration I had. But he's done really, really good. I do feel like if we'd gone to a shelter, that he would have been the magnet for every child to come and pet him because I think it speaks to the stress that people are under in this area, in that once the store got supplies, which I've done some videos on that, so you can see the supplies and you see the distribution center, the bigger one. Um, People keep walking up and just petting him. And I've had some problems with that because he's a dog, he's soft, and he's furry, and he's a friendly lad. So people feel a little bit more free to come and pet him than they did like my 90-pound husky. And we still had that. But oh my gosh, it's like every other person. I have not seen it this bad for petting him ever. And it's just because people are under a lot of stress right now and they want comfort, so yeah. But he's doing great. Absolutely great. So yeah. Except for having the ball stuck underneath that cabinet over there, which is about to worry him to death. What can you do? Let me see. I just got a thing here. Oh, my battery is going down. Yeah. My battery's at 9%. Oopsies. So I'm gonna have to go like really soon because of that. Um, Shoot, I don't even have a cord that I can use to plug in over at the wall. I'm sorry, you all. Anyway, I I hope this all explains why I have not been online as far as live streaming. Um, this is the first live stream since Helene came in. I tried to be on Valerie Reese. It's all about the adventure. I tried to be on her live stream and kept having problems like with electricity, Wi-Fi, and stuff like that. So yeah, even on the phone, I couldn't guarantee that I was going to have stable internet. So yeah. So anyway, so that's where we are. Anybody have a question that they want to ask in the now 7% of battery? Oh, let's see. Iron Fire Horse. I missed a lot of things that you said. Let's see. Tiny House Idea says great. Wow, deep roots on them. So, yeah, maple, oak, walnut. And I hated seeing that big walnut come down because it was an older tree. Um, Sorry I haven't been around, Gayle. My youngest daughter became ill in January and eventually passed away. I'm still, shell shocked and haven't been on YouTube much, but saw you on and here I am. Yeah, waiting would be hard. Irene, I am so sorry about your daughter. Yeah, that's not something you're going to get over quick. Nobody does. So I hope, I hope, you can find your way through this. Um, Irene says, then what a good pup. And says, I thought it was great that the government here allowed and paid for evacuees and pets to be flown to safety, not for Helene, but for other disasters. Thanks, Gayle, for all I do. Yeah, our government is a little behind the eight ball on this. I'm just going to say. Um, Katrina was a disorganized mess, obviously. Um, and I'm not going to say this is on the Katrina level, but it's getting close, I think. My own personal opinion. Because it's just now that we're really, I would say, well, I would not say just now, I would say within the past week, it's been that we finally get a really good structure going. And the distribution center at the Armory is going to close tomorrow. And so that's going to push everything over to the smaller churches, which is okay because we can be more flexible than the Armory. The Armory has to have staff between, let's just say, I forget what it is right now, but let's just say 10 to 5. I'm just pulling those numbers out of thin air. But with the smaller churches, we're going to get a lot of their supplies. And the reason I say it's okay for smaller churches to get those supplies is because somebody can message me on Facebook or pick up the phone and call my husband and say, hey, I need food. I need laundry detergent, blah, blah, blah. Do you have it? Yes, no. If it's yes, we'll just meet them down here and open up the church. They don't have to wait until Saturday from 10 to 2, for example. We'll just go ahead and open it up and let them get what they need. And that blessing box, you've seen me do. Oh, I'm at 5%. Okay. The blessing box that you saw me do a video on, I think maybe even a couple of times where I filled it and it's just 24/7. That is seeing a lot of use right now, not just for food, but cleaning supplies. Um, and there's been a few times lately where somebody has taken cleaning supplies and left the food, which is really unusual. Let's see. Yeah. Living Positively says, I'm sorry, Irene. Gayle, I'm going to have to go. Okay, I understand. I've got to go too. Um, and Iron says, thanks, Gayle. Yeah, it hasn't been easy, but we persevere. Yeah, that's what we know to do, right? You and I have had enough hard knocks that we just know one foot in front of the other, but it's still, like what you're going through, it's still going to take a while. So be kind to yourself, please. Be kind. And, woo, it's going down fast. Yeah, I'm at 4% now. So I'm going to go. You all, thank you for hanging out with me. Have a good evening. And I'll talk to you again as soon as I can get online. I've got to go to another conference for the weekend. I'll get this. Disaster response training is what I've been set up for. And it's like kind of putting the cart before the horse because we're doing the training after, but it's when it was scheduled. So anyway, I can probably talk to you all after that because I'll be in another town and hopefully have better Wi-Fi. So, all right, you all. Thank you again. Do take care. Don't forget to get subscribed if you haven't already, and we'll talk to you. We'll talk to y'all later as soon as I can. Okay. Take care. Good night, everybody. Yes. Oh gosh.